Hey guys, it's Amanda. So I am back with another video. God bless you. Sorry, my puppy sneezed. So I'm back with another video that I said I would do a few weeks ago, and it is the study tips and techniques video. And I feel like this is one of the most. She's making weird sniffling noises. One of the most requested topics that I get, because as most of you know, I am in grad school. I'm getting my doctorate in clinical psychology with a concentration in forensics. So I've been through high school, I've been through undergrad, I'm now in grad school. I can't. And I know a thing or two about just having to get through and optimizing your learning experience. So I am here to share my tips with you guys. And learning is very specific for each individual person. So just because these things work for me doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to work for you. And I kind of talk about that a little bit in the video. So without further ado, I am going to get started. All right, so this isn't necessarily a tip or a trick. This is just kind of a view that I have adopted over the years, especially in grad school when I'm not learning just to memorize anymore. I'm learning for application and for the rest of my life and my career. So I don't view studying as a specific finite event. I kind of view studying as just a constant review and constant learning and absorption and metabolizing of material. So while there are specific days where I have to sit down and study for a test, I like to try and remind myself that I should be reviewing all the time. So the first official tip is to organize yourself and plan ahead. I am a huge fan of Ignore my dog. I am a huge fan of organizing. I have always been. I rely on my planner so much. For those of you interested, I have the Erin Condren hourly layout. It's been really helpful. I like the hourly layout because I see clients, so the time slots are really helpful for me, for my own appointments, for classes when things are due, and stuff like that. So here she is. She's going to interrupt a lot, just so you know. So plan ahead. What does that mean specifically? That means that for me personally, when a professor hands me a syllabus, I go through it, I highlight every single assignment that's due, every exam, every big paper, and I highlight it so I know. Then when I have free time, I will go into my planner and I'll actually put in every single thing that's due so I have it down. I usually put it in the weekly layout and also the monthly spread so I have an overview and I'm seeing it multiple times and it's sinking in. That way I know I have a psychodynamic midterm due at 1 p.m. on Saturday, February 25th. That's actually a fact and I need to get started on that. But it's also helpful just in general because I know that somewhere in on May 9th, I have something due. I don't know what it is, but I know that I have something. So it just kind of keeps you up with staying on top of things for the most part. In a more specific, focused view, make specific to-do lists. So, for example, I have a case presentation coming up in 2 weeks, and there are a whole bunch of different parts that comprise it. So I have to get a recording of a session. I have to transcribe that recording. I have to make a PowerPoint, and I have to write a paper on my case conceptualization. That's a lot of stuff to do, so I break it up. I'm going to get the transcript over with first because that's the easiest and most brainless thing that I have to do because it's literally just typing out the conversation between my client and myself. Then I'll go into the paper and I'll write down, each point that I have to hit. I have to hit the background and the demographics. I have to hit, their presenting problems. I have to hit our rapport and how I perceive our interaction, things like that. So making specific to-do lists helps make bigger tasks more manageable and less intimidating. So the second tip I have is to know what kind of learner you are. Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people are kinesthetic learners, and they learn by doing things and being hands-on. I'm a combination of all three. For my situation, hands-on is more doing like role play of therapy and like practicing therapy sessions and things like that. But for the most part, I'm an auditory and visual learner, so I take handwritten notes, I review my notes, I like to use charts and visual representations. Those all help me. So whenever you figure out what type of learner you are, you should really incorporate that into when you're reviewing your materials, because that's what's going to help you really metabolize and remember the information and then be able to relay it back later. Tip number 3. Find a space that is conducive to studying and learning. So, I do a lot of my work at home just because I'm out for usually like, I don't know, 10 to 14 hours a day. What are you doing? 10 to 14 hours a day. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but when I come home, I feel bad going back out to study because I don't want to leave my puppy alone anymore. And I have created a space in my apartment everywhere I've lived where it's a nice study space and it kind of makes me want to be productive. But even when I'm in my apartment, I can't study in just silence. So I actually have a playlist on Spotify that I use for studying, and I call it Focus. If you want me to share that playlist with you, then just leave a comment and I will definitely do that. But I also like studying in cafes and things like that. It's just about what works for you, what's not distracting, where you can, where can you be most efficient. That's what it is about. So tip number 4 is specifically related to when you're reading. My field is a lot of reading. It's a lot of articles. Not too many textbooks, but it's mostly just peer-reviewed articles. And yeah, I lost my train of thought. I'm also sick, so sorry, but I wanted to get this done. So my first tip for reading is to try to read things more than once. I know that sounds tedious and it's like, who has time for that? And honestly, it's really hard and it doesn't always happen, but it is helpful. The first time you read through, don't do anything but read. The second time and like the times after that is when you should be reading more closely, looking for main points and things that stand out. At the end of each paragraph or section, you should be asking yourself and be able to answer, what was the main point of this, or what were the main points of this article in general. And then also after that first time of reading is when you can make notes on the side. I do a lot of notes in the margins just for key aspects and major things that I want to remember. And I also highlight, but don't over highlight. I know it's like, for some reason, at least me, I always feel compelled to highlight almost everything just because I'm like, oh, it looks pretty and this makes me feel like I'm actually taking something in. You're not. You're actually just making it worse for yourself because it's going to be like information and sensory overload. So really only highlight the things that are absolutely important, like the main ideas. From that highlight, you should be able to go into kind of like the sub-points underneath that. Number 5 is my tips for reviewing and actually studying. In terms of lecture notes, it all depends on what you do. Some people type their notes, some people record the lecture, some people handwrite their notes. This year, what semester is it? Oh my god. I forgot it was spring semester. So this year I've been doing all handwritten notes, and that's actually helped me a lot. Some classes, I don't do that. It really depends. But at the end of the day, you should always try to review the lecture notes that same day, because research has actually shown that you start forgetting information within 20 minutes of finishing the lecture. So just to help yourself remember, you want to be reviewing before you actually have to review. Before the exam, before the quiz, before the paper, whatever it is. You should be reviewing that day. Just look, even if it's just looking over your notes and rereading what you wrote. Not even trying to take it in, just rereading it. Explain out loud to yourself or to other people what you learned. That also, for auditory learners, it helps to reintegrate that into your brain because you're hearing the information again. But it's also a really good representation of how well you know material if you're able to actually explain it. So that's important. Write your own review without looking at your notes and see as much of the information as you can get out, and then go back to your notes and kind of fill in the gaps. See where you were a little weak, see where you may have over-explained yourself, things like that. Be creative with your methods. You can make flashcards, you can make practice tests, you can do a presentation for yourself, you can just make like handwritten outlines, you can do mind maps, you can use Quizlet. I personally use a combination mostly of just handwritten outlines that are color coordinated, and then I also do mind maps if it makes sense for me and if that's how I know I can learn it better. So just like spice it up for yourself so you're not just looking at a computer screen or you're not just reading your notes or things like that. My 6th tip is to take breaks. Just as humans, we can only be so focused and so efficient for so long. For me, I try to do 45 minutes at a time. So I'll usually set a timer for 45 minutes. I'll put everything away. Like if I am not using my laptop, I'll put that away. I'll put my phone away, like face down without any disturbing or notifications. I don't know why I said disturbing. So that the only thing that I'm getting is the timer at the end of 45 minutes. Once that 45 minutes is up, I'll take a break. I'll stretch my legs. I'll play with Dakota because she's needy and she wants attention all the time. And I'll usually like grab a snack. I might grab a drink. I'll usually have some sort of caffeinated beverage. This is not yours. I usually have some sort of caffeinated beverage with me. But don't overdo it on the caffeine because it's not going to be effective. Caffeine is not like a wonder drug. It may feel like it, but it's not. I know I drink too much coffee in general, but I'm just saying. And then just self-care in general with not just taking breaks, but, you know, shower, exercise, get enough sleep. All-nighters are really not that effective. I think you should never pull an all-nighter unless you absolutely have to, unless things came up. I used to do it in college a couple of times. I mean, if I pull an all-nighter, it's not always intentional. It's just because I have really bad sleep habits and I can't fall asleep. But just for long-term learning, all-nighters are not efficient. And then my 7th and I guess final tip, which I already sort of touched on, is study with other people. And I know for some people who are like, no, I like to do things on my own. That's fine. I love doing things on my own, but even I find in certain situations that studying or at least doing homework with other people is beneficial just because you have a soundboard. You know, you can ask questions, you can ask people to explain things in a different way that you might not have thought of that becomes beneficial to you. And like I said earlier, if you're able to teach someone else, that means you know the material. And it just means like when you're suffering with other people, it makes it a little more bearable. My best friend lives in another state and she has been studying for the CPA for like the last year. And so when she was studying for a certain part of the exam, we would be FaceTiming and she would be studying for that and I would be doing my own thing for grad school. And we weren't even studying the same stuff, but just because we were doing it together, it made it a little less like something that we had to do. It was a little bit more enjoyable, not really, but it helped. So do with those tips what you will. This is just what's worked for me so far. My studying techniques have definitely been adapted over the years, and I think I'm always going to be adjusting things here and there, but this is what's working for me right now, and I wanted to share that stuff with you guys because I want you all to do well, and you all seem to want my opinion and my advice on studying and getting through grad school. And just remember, this is all temporary. It sucks right now. It's a grueling process, but you're going to come out of this with a lot of enriched information. You're going to come out of this knowing things that you never even imagined knowing. It's all going to be worth it. Okay? So I hope this video was helpful, and if you have more video requests, just let me know, and I will be sure to do my best to do them. Alright, so I will see you guys later. Bye.